Thank you so much. A very good afternoon to all of you who have joined us to listen to Suman Pai on the very interesting subject, which is so important and critical in the current scenario too, valuing people. So this is the fourth in the webinar series of the IMC Ramakrishna Bajaj National Quality Award Trust, with a specific purpose to introduce the performance excellence model by highlighting the various core values that are so intrinsic to an organization to help build their systems and processes. So far, we have conducted 3 on systems perspective, customer focused excellence, and visionary leadership, which have met with a lot of success and happiness. So now today, we will be bringing to you Valuing People. This would be conducted by Suman Pai, who is so important and integral to the IMC RBNQA Trust process. She has had 15 years of experience as a management specialist, very strong in her communications aspect, and she's an expert, a specialist in communications. Prior to this, she was with Datamatics, an IT company, and handling a diverse portfolio of areas of expertise in that organization and guiding the organization to also win the IMC Ramakrishna Bajaj Quality Award trophy in the service category in the year 2010. So she is an expert in business excellence. For the IMC Ramakrishna Bajaj Quality Award Trust, she has donned many hats. She's not only a trainer, she is also a senior examiner, team leader for conducting assessments across organizations over the period of, I would say, 10 years or so, more than 10 years. She's been an examiner guiding organizations, training people in the business excellence journey. And for the trust, now she's also joined the awards committee.
She's gone on mute.
Guidelines. Yeah, you can hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
So,
but there was, you had gone on mute for a while.
Because a call was coming. So I'm very sorry about that for the interruption. So before, I'm anyway giving forward to Suman Pai. But before I end it, we'll all look forward to Suman Pai's session with us. It will be interesting. Believe me, she is full of life, enthusiasm, and with a smile, she'll take us through the business excellence journey vis-a-vis valuing people. I want to thank Selby Nambison for supporting this webinar in terms of the IT expertise, and Natasha for having fabulously coordinated this session and bringing together all of you to this platform. I would urge you at the end of the session, you please, when you have the questions, please tap on the Q&A icon instead of the chat box. That's the request. And have a good session with Suman. I request you, Suman, to take the session forward. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and welcome to all the participants, to my colleague examiners, some of the names I can recognize, and of valuing people. So I did receive the questions that many of you had filled out when you submitted your registration. So I'm going to try and answer them through the presentation. But if you feel that you require another specific answer, please, like Maya said, use the Q&A section in the Zoom platform. Okay. So before I actually begin, I'd like privileged. Why are we privileged? One is because we are safe at home. The second is that we have access to technology. And the third is that we can continue to grow because we have access to technology. and we are at home. Now, having said that, I'd like to say that I know that we are all going through periods of stress, and we feel that, we don't need in terms of financial, in terms of health, not only of ourselves, but of our loved ones. So before I actually begin the presentation, what I'd like to do is just give a silent gratitude to the Almighty for allowing us to be so privileged. So if you can do this, put your hand on your heart, your right hand or your left hand, depending on whether you're right-handed or left-handed, and just take a few deep breaths with me. So breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Thank you. I actually didn't believe in a lot of these techniques, and staying at home, it's something that I realized is how to still and calm using these pranayam and breathing techniques. Okay, so before we are short of time, let me start my presentation. And I begin, sorry. The author of the Harry Potter series. So in Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, that's what she says. We're all human, aren't we? Every human life is worth the same and worth saving. Every human life is worth the same. And the current pandemic has made us realize that while every human life is the same, it is only the privileged who will probably are lucky enough to be able to keep themselves safe, to keep themselves healthy, and to keep growing in this period. So we are at a moment of existential crisis. Never has the world come together because its people, the human mankind, is threatened at the moment. This virus has changed our lives. It's changed how we build relationships. It's changed how we do our grocery shopping. It's changed how we work. And even after the lockdown is finished, it's going to be different. I mean, all of us are seeing WhatsApp about what could happen. There's a lot of it is still conjecture. We don't even know, completely about what the corona, how is it spreading, what is the effects, how do you know you have corona? We're still in the learning mode. So the only option we have is resilience. And if we have resilience, then we will learn to adapt to this situation. I know economies are crumbling, but there will be countries are going down, but resilience will bring them up again. So what is needed really? The primary driver should be human well-being. So we need to shift our focus from maximizing humanity. That is, and we can witness it. Humanity has become, people have become more important than money or power, because the virus doesn't care whether you are rich, whether you are poor, whether you are wealthy, whether you are a prime minister, a president, or you are just an ordinary laborer or migrant. So that is why humanity has gained so much importance. So we can talk about how there is, when I talk about this, I actually remember John Lennon's song, Imagine. Unfortunately, I can't see you, so I don't know how many of you know John Lennon's song of Imagine. If you do get a chance, listen to it, where he says, imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do, nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. Imagine no possessions, no need for greed or hunger or of a brotherhood of man. So beautifully said. And actually, he sang this after the Vietnam War and all of the strife that was going on in the world at that time. So now that I've given an introduction and hopefully calmed you down, I'm going to begin with what I noticed, what I observed was that most of you who had registered for this program had actually wanted to understand relationships with the business excellence model. And while that is also what is the main reason for this program. So valuing people is one of the core 11 values of the IMC RBNQA criteria, the performance excellence criteria. Now, you can see that on the screen, there are 11 criteria. What I'd like to share is that though the criteria are listed in an orderly fashion, it doesn't mean that the systems perspective, which is the number one criteria, is the most important criteria or visionary leadership core value. So the core values can be, they are all interconnected and interdependent on each other. So let's take an example, okay? That's why you have that logo up there which says interconnection. So an example of customer focus. When will your customers be happy? Your customers will be happy when your people are happy with the organization. They will ensure that your customers are happy. How will you ensure that your people are happy and engaged? By leadership. Leadership will engage, will ensure. It's leadership's role to do that. And what would that lead? It would lead to delivering value and results for your organization. Similarly, there are many other such examples that we can take. If you have an empowered people, you will have, they will give you ideas for innovation. And as we can see, which I will share some of the examples of the innovations that have taken place during this pandemic. So empowered people will lead to innovation, innovation will lead to success and sustainability. So all these core values, these 11 core values are all interrelated, okay? So today we are going to talk, our focus, even though it says valuing people, people are all, whether it's customers, your stakeholder, your other stockholders, your collaborators, partners, those are all people. However, the focus today is going to be on workforce. So the first thing that we're going to address is, why is valuing people an important core value? Then what are the systems and processes needed? And how do you create a culture of people-centeredness? So why? I mean, we've heard Mr. Lula say this often enough, and organization's greatest asset, people define quality, workforce is an asset which appreciates with time. But have you realized how important it's become in this lockdown period, where people cannot think about it? We cannot get our groceries delivered because the grocery boys are not there, okay? So what happens to an online delivery system? Think a call service center. Call service centers, many of them are not operational. The other day, my phone broke down and I couldn't get any access to somebody who would fix my phone. So people. It's people who run businesses. It's people who make communities. It's people who make countries. So people are the most important asset in this world. I know we've destroyed the environment and we've done, but still it is people who define the world. So let's look at, as per the criteria, what are the drivers of performance excellence of valuing people? So it all begins with leaders. There was a question that was asked on leaders do they have to believe in people? Yes, people-centeredness comes from leaders. I will talk a little bit more when we go on the leadership style. And it is leaders who set the culture and the systems in an organization. So we'll also talk about what is the kind of culture and what are the kind of systems that are needed. So when we come to the next slide, the most important thing for leaders is to build trust. What you will follow whatever the leader asks you to do. We know that when we trust, there are enough and more examples. When we trust our doctor, we get well, whether he gives us a placebo or actually treats our illness. When the baby trusts the mother, and the baby will walk with the mother wherever she goes, right? So trust is a very important factor for leaders to build. I'd like to also clarify at this point, when I'm saying leaders, it's not only the CEOs and the upper management, but it is anyone who leads a team. Anyone who has a team can be a leader in his own small sphere, okay? So the first thing that a leader has to do is build, and have to take an interest in the people who work with you. You have to take an interest to take people who work with you. You have to understand what they need. You have to
Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, please check your connectivity. You're breaking. Hello, Suman.
that you
Hello. Sorry for interrupting, Suman, ma'am. You're breaking. You'll have to just check your connectivity.
okay now?
Yeah, now okay. Maybe
Yeah,
you can just put. You can just shut your video and speak so that it is more clear. Okay, now you're clear. Now you're clear. Okay, yeah. Please go
I'm
ahead.
clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is gone. The shared screen is gone.
Video is gone.
Yeah. So you'll have to just share it again.
Okay. The share screen is gone, is it? Okay,
Yeah.
hold on. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. It started. Okay, now it's clear. Fine. Please go ahead.
Started?
Yeah.
Okay. So like we said, building trust is, I don't know where to build. And then when we talk about trust, so how does one build trust? Is through transparent communication. So let me give you an example of what happened during the pandemic, this lockdown period. This was a small, I actually talked to, there is a small mason. He actually does a lot of the masonry and carpentry work for the buildings, for the societies in our area. He's a small-time businessman, and he had all his workers are from Bihar and UP. He brings novices from there, trains them, he teaches them. He is one himself, and I've observed him as he has helped them grow. And he's got some very good practices. So I asked him, I called him up the other day and asked him, what did he tell the workers, and are his workers still there? So he said he realized that this lockdown, he asked them before the lockdown happened, what would they like to do? He talked to them, and some of them preferred, those who had homes here, who were living with their families, preferred to stay here. And those who who were just temporary migrant workers, who worked with him, said they would prefer to go back. Now, what did he do? I mean, that shows how even small-time businessmen take care of their people. He actually bought their tickets and sent them home. And for his people who preferred to stay back, he ensured that they have sufficient money, funds, to last them for 2 months. Now this I thought, I mean, in good times, I know that every year he took his entire team after they finished any project, he would take his entire team to either Shirdi or Alibag, including the families, at his cost. So this is what, and so I asked him, so how many of his workers have been there with him? He's been doing this for the past 20 years. And he said his main mukaddams have been with him for the last 15 years. And one recently, about 6 months ago, started his own business. So that is the kind of, so he communicating with them that, look, don't be afraid, you have your jobs, okay? That we will carry you for a while, or we cannot carry you. So this is what you need to do. So transparent communication is a very important requirement. I also asked one of the manufacturing companies who have some units operational because they cater to the export zone, and also there are continuous process factories, but there are some factories that have closed down. So I asked, how was it communicated to them? So they said they have something like a Facebook page. First of all, the senior leaders communicated it to one level down, and then made sure that the communication was also on Facebook. So it was communicated equally and in the same tone to all people in all the factories and in all the locations, right? So another very important factor for leaders to do is to commit to workforce success. So they have to learn to be coach, mentors, guides. And in many large organizations, leaders who do not have these skills are actually given these skills by external coaches, mentors, guides who help them through this to understand and work with the workforce. So basically, what I'm saying is that while leaders can learn the skills, they can learn, there has to also be an intrinsic belief in people. They have to be interested in people. Leaders who are interested in people will always be sure that you can always be sure that that will be a successful organization. And another very important factor is reward and recognize. And we know that reward and recognize, everybody likes to be recognized. Everybody likes to be rewarded. Now, reward and recognize has to take on a different meaning during this time. How do you recognize when people are all at home? There are different ways. I mean, there are people who are logging in every morning and checking in into their, so maybe you can, this is, and there will be a lot of situational leaders who would have come up during this pandemic. and during this lockdown period. So don't wait for an annual event. Recognize them and reward them right away. Put up their names on your company portal, or on, if you have internal WhatsApp groups with their pictures. They will feel good. So we said leadership. So it's leadership who builds culture, who ensures that there are systematic respect is a very, very important attribute. And it's a very important aspect of culture. So if you respect your people, doesn't matter whether he is the peon in your office or the sweeper or the cleaner in your office, right up to the CEO. CEO automatically commands respect. Believe me, there will be that culture of feeling of belongingness for the people. I remember an incident where a customer told me, I was having tea with your CEO, and what struck me as important was how respectfully he addressed the boy who brought my tea. And then when I went to the chairman's office, I saw that the chairman had similar kind of respect for his secretary, for all the other people who were walking in to his office. So, and if you have that kind of an environment here, I'm sure people will be happy to work for this organization. So respect. And in fact, I don't know how many of you have read Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point. And no, it's not in the Tipping Point. It's in another book.
In the meanwhile, Selby, can I intervene?
Yes, sure.
Yeah, I just saw a question from one of our examiners that IMC RBNQA, the facilities at the chamber have such wonderful facilities for the refreshments, tea, coffee, and lunch, and all of that. How have we recognized them? That was a very interesting question. Yes, we do. In fact, our Director General at various forums highlights the contribution and the expertise that the caterers bring on board. And we have actually recognized his efforts, and the accolades were presented to the caterers at some of the forums we've had, where our Director General and other senior leaders do an appreciation round for all. So yes, that is one of the ways that we have recognized the vendor, that is the catering people who help us in successfully conduct. And definitely we are missing those interactions, that is the live interactions at the chamber. And yeah, all of us are missing it tremendously.
Exactly.
Yes, so yeah. So that's something that we are carrying forward. So thank you, Harish, for that interesting question. Okay, so in the meanwhile, I thought I'll just update also on the IMC Ramakrishna Bajaj Quality Award Trust till Suman comes on board. We are working on various initiatives to make our training programs online, that is for the returning examiners. And we'll also be finally conducting the MQH Best Practices competition that was scheduled for the March 1920 this year. We will be having it online completely. Most probably it would be in June. Everything is getting finalized, discussions are happening. So that's something that we are looking at. A new initiative also will be introduced by the trust, and to reach out to organizations in a different way. And also we hope to continue our regular award process. Already we did think of, holding on to it for this year, but we all started getting inquiries on the award process, and there's no harm in keeping it on, because I guess organizations are in the review process when they have the time right now. So we are taking benefit of that approach and continuing with the process. However, there will be some shift in the timeline.
Okay.
All right. So I was on respect. Did everybody hear what I talked about respect? I think that's the most important, one of the most important features of a culture. And it begins with leadership. If leaders show respect towards their employees, then, I mean, at least to their immediate reportees, and then it translates down, and ensure that it translates down, you will have where people feel happy to be working for the organization. And when people feel happy to be working for an organization, they always give their best. So there's another concept also, that team spirit, collaboration and team working is very important. We're seeing so much of that now, and it's going to become even more important that we work as teams, because now we can't even see each other. So I was talking to one of these IT companies where once they knew that this lockdown was going to happen, it was also part of their risk management, and where they decided that they would send computers home, laptops home, with dongles for people who couldn't connect, right? And who didn't have Wi-Fi. And then they had to configure all these laptops, these dongles, to make sure that they can only go to the websites or whatever, their own internal security measures. And the project manager of that particular project told me that it was amazing the number of people who worked so collaboratively and worked as a team, worked long hours through the night, not only getting these laptops ready, but also ensuring that they trained all these people to whom these laptops were sent about how to use them. So now this is also, when you talk about it, this is situational leadership. So I hope that this company recognizes these individuals who came forward to ensure that everybody on their teams could work. All right, and what happens when you have a team spirit, and when you have people who feel respected, they will come up with suggestions for improvements, for innovations. They will take risks, and as long as you don't punish the risks they take. In fact, if they learn from it, I remember where one project manager said, "No, I didn't punish my associate for the mistake he made." I'm still on the spotlight, right? Okay. Sorry, it's a little distracting. I didn't punish. In fact, he took a risk, and if the risk had worked, then we would have been better off. But for whatever reason, he learned, and as long as he doesn't repeat the mistake, I'm okay with it, you know? So, and the inclusive environment is basically, I was listening to CNN the other day, and in California, the California Chancellor of Universities has cancelled all in-person sessions, education lectures and all of that for the autumn season. And something that he said was very interesting. He said inclusive excellence. US is facing similar problems like we are. It's mostly all those people who have wages under $40,000 who are affected by this virus and who are dying. So, but at the same time, he also understood that there could be some of these students, because over there they take student loans and all of that, who may not be able to, you know, they may need jobs, and they may not have jobs in order to do this, to do the fall course. So he was saying how they were going to be working with that, how they were going to be ensuring that there was inclusive excellence. And what the pandemic has done is also given us learning opportunities, and leaders should ensure that they provide learning opportunities for their people. There were some questions on learning opportunities. I don't think I had that written down. And basically, one thing that's going to happen with people working from home, think about it, we are human beings and we all need, one of our senses is the sense of touch. Some of us are fortunate enough to be living with families, but many of us are living alone. And if you are, not so much in India, but in elsewhere in the world, so if you're living alone in the world, you look forward to hugging your grandchildren or hugging your family members. Even in a workplace, you look forward to at least shaking hands. Now you can't do that. All you're doing is connecting with people, which is also great, through the screen, right? So what is going to happen to our sense of touch? But does that mean that it stops us having fun? No. There are organizations, there are organizations where they have birthday activity for everybody's birthday within the organization. One day in a month is set up for birthday birthday celebrations, and they conducted birthday celebrations through the Zoom platform. Similarly, you can have special days where you can have a Happy Tuesday or a Fun Friday, fun activities for a Friday. And fun activities is going to become very important for people who are working from home. Maybe you can have a quiz time, you can do a lot of things. So the way we work is going to change, and the culture that is required to be built will change. So HR will also be busy. Also, another thing that will be required is counselors who will need to work one-on-one with all these people who are working from home. They're going to need a lot of hand-holding. And when you have created this culture, happy culture, respectful culture, people will also feel empowered. But there is another very important factor to have people empowered, and that is systems. You need to have strong systems. How do you have, you need to have systems that are robust, repeatable, and measurable. So for workforce, what do you need first? So the approach that you need to have is first determine what is their requirements. Now the requirements will vary from organization to organization, depending on the type of organization you are and depending on what is your vision. So there was a question which said, should the KPIs include, also have soft skills? Well, there is no one size fits all sort of way to determine your KPIs. Now, if you are, let's say, in a R&D section of any organization, or you are in an R&D company, what should be your main goal? What be KPI? What are the new things that you discovered, or it could be team working, okay? How much of information do you share? Whereas if you are in a service sector where, let's say, you are in a call center, what will be determined not only how many number of calls that you were able to answer successfully, but other soft items such as your discipline with your work, your politeness with your staff, your team relationships. Those are things that will do. So I hope whoever asked that question, this is answered. So determining requirements is very important. You have to know your workforce, and you have to determine the requirements for all people in your workforce, right from including the CEO. And how do you do that? First of all, you need to have a competency matrix. A competency, so the criteria asks you, what is your capability and how do you measure your capability and capacity? Then you have to have clear KRAs and a measurement system. We already talked about providing them learning and growth opportunities. I was reading up HR analytics, and there was a study that was conducted in Nielsen, the company Nielsen, and what they found is that there was a lot of attrition. So how they decided was, so that they went down to the root cause and found out what was the reason for the attrition, is that there was no lateral or other growth opportunities. So they made a concerted effort, and 40% of the people were given lateral moves. With 40% of the people being given lateral moves, 48%, there was a reduction in 48% of the attrition. So that is a fairly large number. Then flexibility in work practices. We all know that now we have to be more flexible. Even though we have work hours of 9 to 5, and perhaps it is possible at certain levels, but in management levels, I know it has increased the work tremendously, because now there is, you can work from home. So I have a friend who's a legal, who's vice president legal, and she says now their calls have even started at sometimes at 2 o'clock at night. So which you have to be flexible, yeah. But at the same time, I think the company and customers should be mindful of her private time. And the workplace, safety and security. Now, while leadership always ensured that their offices were safe and secure, they had OSHAs, they implemented a lot of these things. What basically now it's going to change. If more and more people are going to work from home, how is an organization going to ensure their safety and security? Simple things like, most of my friends who are working from home have started complaining of backache, obviously, because they're not used to sitting down for 6 hours, 8 hours in front of the screen. Some are complaining of eye strain. They're not used to sitting down continuously. And maybe their chairs are not designed like in our workplace. We have all these ergonomic chairs, but here maybe it's not available. So how is HR going to take care of this? So there are benefits of working from home, but there are also issues that will come up. And then there was another study that was conducted by Best Buy. Best Buy is one of those big retail stores in the US. And what they did was they did specific engagement activities, and they determined that the engagement, people engagement went up by 0.1%. And for 0.1%, the returns they got was $100,000 a month increase in the revenue. So with just 0.1% of engagement, of people engagement, they got $100,000 worth of annual, no, sorry, not monthly, it was annual revenue. So they decided that instead of conducting satisfaction and engagement on an annual basis, they will now conduct it quarterly to determine what are the factors that will keep their employees happy, satisfied, and working. So for some of you who are not familiar with the criteria and who are on this webinar, I'd like to say that there are mainly, the criteria has got 6 process items and 1 results criteria. However, like I said about the core values being interconnected, so is it interconnected with these processes and results. All right. So there are those 6 processes, and then there are the results. The processes are leadership, strategy, customer focus, data and knowledge management, information and knowledge management, and workforce and systems and operations focus, right? So, and the criteria asks you, how do you do a certain process? And it asks you, what are the results? And the 2 measurement items are ADLI for process, which it asks, What is your approach to a process? How many locations and units have you deployed it? What is your learning, and how is it connected with your vision and mission of the organization? That is integration. So the ADLI and the Let's See, which is and the Let's See is the measurement criteria for results. So results is, what are your current levels? What are your trends for the past 3 years or more of those results? What is your comparisons, either comparisons with your own goals or targets, or with your sister organization, or even better, if you have relevant comparisons of other organizations in your industry or in cross industry. And then levels, trends, comparisons, and integration. Again, how does it meet your organization's goals and vision of the target of the organization? So let's take workforce. How do you determine what is the workforce? First of all, in your organizational profile, they will ask you, what is your workforce? I mean, who is your workforce? What are their different roles? What is their education levels? Who are your contractors? So the organizational profile asks you for your workforce profile. Then in leadership, okay, it looks at how have they set the direction for the workforce? How do they communicate their vision for the for the organization to the workforce? How do they create an environment for success of the workforce? And what are their governance systems? Governance, I didn't cover governance in leadership when I said leadership determines culture and systems, because it was already covered by Mr. Talwar in the previous session, webinar. And then it comes to criteria 5, which is workforce, environment, and engagement. So in this particular criteria, you'll find all the important questions for being a performer. And if you answer that, and if you set your systems to those questions, how do you do this? It will spark a plug in your thought process. And those are basically the activities and processes that you need to do to be considered a performance excellent company. And then of course are your results, and the results that they look for is capability and capacity. So what you have defined in your workforce, how have you improved on it? What is your current trends, your engagement levels? How do you conduct workforce satisfaction and engagement? What are the results? How are they happy with the leadership? What is the climate? What are the development opportunities you've provided to the workforce? Right. So when you talk about, weaving in excellence, I didn't have this slide earlier, but I noticed that a lot of people ask me about post-pandemic scenario. What could be the possibilities? It's really very hard to predict, and there are so many people who are making predictions and who are saying this with it. But one thing is for certain: there's going to be a wider gap between those who have and those who have not. And what I mean by have and have not is not only money, but in terms of technology. Then those who know and know not, and people who can read and use technology, and people who cannot read and don't know technologies. There's going to be a wider and wider gap. And technology is going to be a driver, a major driver. So more and more people are going to rely on technology and these repetitive tasks. I mean, many of us now, those who are housewives and also working women, we've learned how to do without a maid, much as we'd love to see them come back. Okay, we are having our husbands and our children are supporting us. So those are the people who we don't know whether, we know we'll give them back their jobs, but there could be other jobs that could go away. And work from home is going to be a reality, at least for the next 2 years. I have a friend who runs a housekeeping service. They run a housekeeping service for various organizations. During this pandemic and during this lockdown, the organizations expected, even though there was no one coming to work, they expected that their offices would be kept clean. They really had a problem because they couldn't get those workers to come to the offices and clean the offices. They could only do that with people who, those people who lived close by to the offices and who had access. So I was talking to them and they were saying that perhaps in the future, when we are at least in a city like Bombay, where it is possible to have people who do housekeeping services to live close by to office areas, because we know every office area also has the juggies and all surrounding it. So they were thinking that going forward, that's what they're going to do. And so this could be a possibility where people might be working closer to their office locations. They may be cycling, all right? In fact, today there was a directive put out that if you have to travel, don't take public transport, use private vehicles. And in fact, one organization, consultant organization in India has said that when the lockdown opens up, they will be arranging for pickup and drops. So through the cab service. But I'm thinking with so many of these migrant workers gone away, and we know for sure that Ola and Uber drivers, many of them are migrants. What are they going to be pickup and drop services available? So it's going to be very, very different. Let me talk about disruptive innovation. We know the kind of innovations that are happening. Jugaad, India is known for Jugaad. Okay, so when you think about Mahindra converted their sanitary pad making machines into making masks. And I know after they started that, because I needed new masks, and I could get it only after I saw that on WhatsApp that Mahindra was doing it. Then similar thing that, Marico came up with this cleaning vegetables, because there was I saw a lot of WhatsApp discussion between women. Do we use salt? Do we use haldi? Do we use apple cider vinegar? So there are a lot of innovations that are going to come up, which are going to benefit mankind and are going to benefit society. There's going to be reskilling required. So people are going to learn new things, have to learn technology. They're going to learn how to do it better. And so there's, because the regular mundane jobs, the repeatable jobs are slowly going to go away. And one thing that's definitely a strength for all of us is that we are going to become more self-reliant. I don't know whether it's going to lower the consumption of luxury goods, but definitely we have become more careful because we don't know how long our money is going to last. So my mother used to always say, simple living and high thinking is the way to go. And perhaps this is the time for us to think about what we want to do with our lives. So so let me conclude by saying, this is Henry Wadsworth Longfellow in A Psalm of Life. Lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Let us then be up and doing with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. It's one of the most beautiful poems. So it's saying that we will survive. I know we are in an existential crisis, but let us still work. Let us learn to labor and we wait. So if we have patience, good things will come to us. And the Almighty has made us, and He will ensure that we survive. So thank you. Maya, I'm done. So if there are questions.
Yes, Suman. Thank you so much, Suman, for a wonderful interaction. And I'm sure participants have benefited. And I throw it open for questions from the viewers. So we've got a question coming up. I'll just read it out. Yeah. Okay. What is the difference between value and respect? Suman?
Yeah, I got your question. What is the difference between value
Value and
and respect?
respect. Yeah.
Are you connecting it with valuing people? Is it what it is? Respect
I would
is
guess that. Yeah.
is a behavior. It's an attitude. Okay,
Mm,
value is also a behavior, but respect is more intrinsic. It's personal, and it comes from your value. If you value humans, if you value something, you will
mm,
respect it. Okay, so actually respect is what it comes from your own internal value system, your value.
okay. Okay. Suman, with your wide experience in interacting with various organizations, can you throw some light on some of the initiatives that have worked wonders with getting the engagement of employees right on board and working towards the fulfillment of the overall goal for the organization?
Okay. Uh, like I said, I can only share some of the ways that some organizations do
Definitely.
conduct engagement, but
Mm-hmm.
these are every organization has to determine their own requirement, and it stems from the level of the employees and what
Mm,
are the what are their requirements. So, for
mm,
instance, in a manufacturing organization, what I
mm-hmm.
saw was the plant head
Mm,
was actually conducting yoga classes and calming sessions for the
mm,
people, okay, for
okay.
the workers on the shop floor.
Mm-hmm.
And the shop floor people were so impressed that their plant head was conducting the yoga sessions and teaching them how to reduce stress,
Uh-huh.
and also gave them lectures on quitting smoking, okay, why
Uh-huh.
smoking is bad for them, and how helping them through it, that they it improved the engagement level of the workers. And
Okay.
how it came to know is that one time one of the workers came to the plant head's office and
Yeah.
brought a packet of glucose biscuit. He said, "Sir, I want to give this to you
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't need the need to buy my cigarettes." Okay,
Okay.
so I
Mm,
wanted to thank you using this money. So this is one. In
mm,
another smaller organization, what I saw is early morning, everybody gets together, hold hands. Okay,
okay.
now these
Mm-hmm.
are things that we're going to miss in this scenario. Hold
Mm,
hands and
हाँ
and
चलेगा
uh,
मैं तू फोन करेगा तो मेरे को कोई इशू
and
नहीं मिला तो
make
मैं 10 मिनट
and
में
say a prayer, hold hands and say a prayer, and then share what happened the previous day. I thought that was such a beautiful way. So sharing with their successes, any failures, whatever they experienced the previous day. So by sharing, they
okay.
reduce their stress levels. So this is one of the, and including the head of the organization, he would also be part of it. So,
Okay.
and then it also brings them closer. So they can see the head of the organization, the CEO, not as a CEO in a chair, but as a person, and they can connect with him. So this was
Oh,
one of the other engagement. Then in my own organization, when I worked with younger people, I
mm-hmm.
realized that I had to change the way I work with them. I had about 150 team of
Mm-hmm.
21, 23-year-olds. So
Okay.
they suggested, "Ma'am, can we have thank you Fridays?" So every Friday between the shift change, so
Mm-hmm.
between 2:30 and 3:30, we used to
Mm,
have like a games or a party. We used to have a party. So every Friday we'd have a party, let our hair down for 1 hour, and then everybody gets back to work. And it helped improve the morale of the people. So
okay.
there are different ways that one can engage with
Mm,
with
okay.
your workforce.
Great. So there's one more question. It's valuing workforce is being attempted by organizations currently. The Levin Schwartz model, that's what's written here, is an example. example, Infosys does it every year. Have you come across what's the impact of valuing people as an approach on the valuation of the workforce?
I'm sorry, but I'm not familiar with that model.
Okay.
And so I really cannot answer that question.
Okay, so maybe you can revert a little later, Suman, if it's
Yes,
possible.
I can.
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, any more questions from the audience? Otherwise, we would conclude it. But before concluding, first of all, is there any more questions coming up? I'm not seeing any Q&As popping up on my screen. So, if it's over from your end, then I would thank Suman for this interesting session and being with the trust activities so very critically and providing value to our process. Thank you so much, Suman. And I would also like to announce that the next session would be on managing for innovation. We hopefully would be trying to zeroing in on an education expert. So those who are from the education sector can look forward to it also and see how best it will benefit you. So much for now. Thank you so much once again, Suman, and thank you audience for your participation. And we look forward to your feedback too. I think Natasha would be sending that form, or I think it would be already in your mail. So look forward to your feedback and hope to improve for our next session. And sorry for the video interruptions or the audio interruptions. There were some glitches today, so sorry about that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you,
so
Maya.
much.
Thank
Okay.
you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.